Hello, my Bill for Thousand Nation. How's everyone doing today? Hopefully everyone's having a great day. If not, I hope it gets better from here. We are back with another MrBallen video. This one is titled, She Hid, but the Demon Found Her. The Long Island Haunting. I'm intrigued. I'm interested. You have me by my short hairs, MrBallen. Let's get into today's story. Go ahead, turn them lights down low, put on something comfy, cup with something special. Let's get intrigued.
There is one absolutely horrifying part of today's story. It's the part where Angela is under the bed. And believe me, when you get to that part in the story, you'll know what I'm talking about. But before we get into today's story, if you're a fan of the strange, dark, and mysterious delivered in story format, then you've come to the right place, because that's all I do, and I upload 3, 4, even 5 times every week. And so if that's of interest to you, then the next time the like button asks you to go get them a regular iced coffee, I want you to go to Starbucks and order a regular iced coffee, but with light ice. Then hand that sucker over to the fool that is the like button. Also, please subscribe to my channel and turn on all notifications so you don't miss any of my weekly uploads. All right, let's get into today's story.
That poor like button, he gets it sometimes, man. Like, no. I'm not a big ice coffee. I like my frappes though, bro.
On January 23rd, 2005, which is actually a day that is remembered by the people of New York as Black Sunday, Curtis Myron,
MrBallen, I am sorry, but that got very loud, and I apologize, but oh my God.
Who was a New York City firefighter, was trapped on the 4th floor of an apartment in the Bronx. Blazing inferno. He, along with 5 other firefighters, are trapped on the top floor. There was no way out, and they elected to jump from the 4th floor. And unfortunately, Curtis, along with another firefighter, did not survive the fall. In addition to those 2 lives that were lost, another fire had broken out separately in New York the same day that claimed the life of a 3rd firefighter. This was the largest loss of life for the New York City Fire Department since the September 11th attacks. Curtis's wife, Jeanette, and their 2 daughters, Angela, who was a young teenager, and Deneen, who was a little bit younger than Angela, they were inconsolable. They never thought that their father, their husband...
I think we've heard... I think we've either heard this one or one a lot like it, because it's starting to sound a little on the familiar side. I think they move into a house that's haunted.
Husband would not come home again, but they were faced with this horrible new reality where Dad wasn't coming home. The Black Sunday tragedy, the loss of those 3 firefighters, had become very high profile, and so news channels and media outlets were showing up at Jeanette's property hoping to get an interview with she or her kids about what had happened, and they were just not interested in that. And so they felt very trapped inside of the house. And the house itself had been built by Curtis. He had literally built the house, and so it was just a constant reminder of the sadness of this loss. And at some point, Jeanette just said,
that is the hardest thing, like, just to be stuck there. I mean, don't get me wrong, like, there for a while, you want those memories, you want that. I remember when we stood right there and kissed for the first time in this house, or I remember the first dinner that we made over there, or I remember what she was wearing when we came into the door for the first time, or all those memories. Like, you want them, you cherish them, and then after a while they start to drive you insane. I've seen it. It has to be hard. It has to be.
To the girls, I think we should move. I think we just need a fresh start. This is too much. It's too much to be here. Let's just move. And the girls were very eager to leave. So Jeanette starts doing some house hunting, and quickly she finds this nice little house on Long Island where they live, but farther away from the city. And it was sitting on an acre of land, which for the price that was being asked for it, it was unheard of. They went to the property, and Jeanette could see that the house needed a ton of work. But all of Kurt's firefighter buddies were very eager to support Jeanette and her kids, and they offered to come by and actually help them do the renovations on the house. And so Jeanette bought the house, and very quickly she and her 2 daughters moved in, and all of Kurt's firefighter buddies showed up and began this massive house renovation.
Hell yeah.
Basically tearing it down to the studs and rebuilding the whole house. Because of this massive renovation project, A lot of the doors and windows were not secured, and so at night Jeanette felt really uncomfortable, so she went out and purchased 7 cameras to fit on the outside of the house to monitor the property, and all of the cameras streamed to her laptop where she could watch them at any time. And so she found herself watching these cameras a lot on her laptop.
Man, I do the same thing. I got cameras around the outside of my house. You can't trust people nowadays. But, you know, I like having my cameras. I like being able, I hear a noise. I don't have to, like, throw on a bunch of clothes, put on my coat, put on my shoes, grab my boots, whatever the case may be. You run outside, I can just look at my cameras and be like, oh, okay. And keep on going about my day. And I have noticed, like, when there's just nothing on TV, like in general, I watch YouTube, and then, you've watched everything you like to watch on YouTube, and you're just sitting there with your thumb up your ass, and you're like, watch the same old, or what do I do? And I almost always end up going over and just watching the cameras for like hours. Just, I don't know why. A lot of them, only thing you can see is like the woods and stuff back behind the house, but I'll sit there and watch them for hours, bro. It's stupid. It is, but it's fun.
Kind of reflexively watching what was happening around her property. And so one night, Jeanette's at her house, her kids are upstairs, and she's got her laptop open, and she's watching these feeds from the 7 different cameras. And she admitted that it was just kind of fun to watch the cameras. It felt, kind of cool to see what was going on outside, but from the safety of your home. And she was watching one particular feed that was showing the edge of her property where there was this big forest that basically butted up against their property, where there was a swing set in their driveway. And she was looking out at this big open front yard of theirs. And from the tree line, she watched a figure emerge it looked like a man in a cloak, walk up to their driveway and walk a little ways down the driveway before stopping and staring up at the house. Jeanette was so caught off guard by what she was seeing that she didn't do anything. She just stood there watching this figure. And as soon as the figure had...
Nope. I would have walked outside. I would have shot him. I am sorry. I have watched way too many fucking MrBallen videos. I have watched way too many fucking scary movies. I have watched way too much shit in my day. That motherfucker getting shot. Not today, Satan. Nuh-uh.
Had gotten there and was watching the house, had turned back around and walked back into the woods and vanished. It was late. Jeanette didn't know what she'd even seen. The cameras were not super HD, so she thought it must have been an animal, or it was just an
They wasn't full-on potato. There's like semi-sweet potato, is she? Gotcha.
Anomaly of the camera itself. So at the same time that Jeanette is looking at her laptop and she's trying to make sense of this figure she's seen, upstairs, the 2 girls are in their own bedrooms, which are on other ends of the hallway. Angela was laying on her bed with her back up against the wall, and she's reading a book, and she starts hearing tapping along the same wall that her back is against, and she can almost feel it in her back. She puts her book down and sits forward and turns and is listening really intently to where the tapping had been coming from. And then she hears bang, 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 like someone's trying to get her attention. She gets right out of her bed and goes to her door. She opens it up and looks downstairs because...
Now, we're talking 3 knocks, right? Like the mocking of the Trinity type shit, right? Man, that's some demonic shit, just saying.
From where her door opened, she could look into the living room.
What the fuck is that shit? Ooh, that I don't like that face, man. That face gave me the chills. I'm not even gonna fucking lie. I'm on fucking edge, bro.
First floor, and immediately she saw her mom on her laptop. Her mom was not banging on anything, and her sister was in her room and she was down the hall, and so that couldn't have been her sister. So she goes back in her room and she's thinking to herself, I'm hearing things. She puts her ear right up against the wall, and as soon as her ear makes contact with the wall, she said it sounded like someone smashed the wall right on the other side of her ear. Causes her to freak out, and she goes right into her bed and throws the covers over her head and she hides. What Angela didn't know is that down the hall, her younger sister Deneen had heard tapping as well, but her tapping sounds were not coming from the wall, they were coming from the door. And she thought her mom had come upstairs to see what she was doing. So she got up, walked to the door, opened it up, and there was nothing. She did the same thing that Angela did and poked her head down and saw her mom sitting on the couch. She looked down the hall and she saw that Angela's door was closed. It wasn't Angela. So she shuts the door, and as soon as it shuts, she hears 3 distinct taps on the door. She opens it up again, there's no one there. She too runs into her bed and jumps under the covers. The girls would say,
That's the mocking of the Trinity type shit, bro. I've watched Ghost Adventures. I know shits. I know things. I used to watch Ghost Adventures. I know shits. I know things.
say in interviews that the tapping sounds continued periodically throughout most of the night, but at some point they both managed to fall asleep under the covers. The next morning, the girls go downstairs and they're in the kitchen and they tell each other what they had heard the night before. And they both start feeding off of each other because they both had this experience and didn't realize it. Angela would say to Deneen, yeah, I heard these tapping sounds. Deneen is picking up on her fear and she's saying, I heard tapping sounds. And the kids are really wound up. And that's when Jeanette comes into the kitchen and she sees her kids talking about something that seems really intense. And she goes, what's going on? What are you talking about? And they said, Mom, we think something's wrong with the house. We heard tapping sounds last night. This happened to me. This happened to me. And Jeanette just says, guys, it's a brand new house. We aren't used to the sounds the house makes. I'm sure it's just pipes or, creaking floor.
They're doing construction on it. Could just be the house settling. We don't know how long the house has been there. We don't know how long it has been empty. We don't know what all is wrong with it. It could just be like they're doing construction on it now and things are just making some weird noises. I get it. I'm with the lady. I get it.
Boards or something. You guys are overthinking it. Don't worry about a thing.
Yeah.
The house is fine. Over the
It's
following
Satan.
few days, some of the firemen that were
It's fucking Satan. It ain't the house settling. It ain't the construction. It's them damn ass Goonie monsters out there running around the motherfucking robes, calling on Satan. You got the devil. You got the devil in your house. The devil has come home to roost.
helping renovate the house began to work on the basement. The basement was full of clutter. It was like whoever had lived there before had never taken anything out. Very old pieces of machinery and furniture and strange boxes and papers. And the first step to fixing the basement was just going to be emptying it. And so the firemen were removing things from the basement when one of them, his name was Tom, he was one of Kurt's very good friends, Tom discovered that on the ground underneath all the clutter was this large pentagram, which is a 5-pointed star inside of a circle that is almost always associated with satanic worship. Tom gets Jeanette to come downstairs and shows her what's in the ground. And he says, what do you want?
Yep, to the Satan worshiping. Nope, to I don't want to be there. Fuck that. See, that's the thing. Like, I don't believe that. Man, you want to worship Satan, do what you do. You know what I mean? I don't care. I really don't give 2 fucks what anyone believes in. I don't. What bothers me is people who just do things because they think it's cool. Like, don't fuck with shit you know nothing about. It can be bad for everyone involved and everyone that gets involved after the fact. I'm not saying devil worshiping is bad or wrong or evil. I'm not saying anything like that. I'm just saying if you are not someone who believes in it fully, knows what you're doing, don't fuck around with things. I don't think you should fuck around with things like that even if you do know what you're doing. Because it's Satan. But I'm sure if it's something you believed in your whole life and, you know, you come from a long line of it, you know how to believe in your religion safely. So I would be more worried, not the fact that was it owned by people who did devil worshiping and stuff like that. Because more than likely, if it's a whole family of people doing devil worshiping, then I'm sure they have appropriate ways to do things. You know, it's just not just like whatever and hope for the best. My worry is, what if it was just some kids going into an abandoned house, trying to be scary, opening a door to something they didn't need to fucking open it to, and cause all kinds of fucking havoc. That's what my worry would be.
me to do about this? And Jeanette said, paint over it. I don't want my kids to see this. But what Jeanette didn't know is that the kids had actually been playing outside over the past couple of days out in that forest in their property. And they had found a number of pentagrams carved into trees, into rocks, carved into the dirt on the ground. They were everywhere. They decided not to tell their mom because they didn't want their mom to worry. So they're both siloing information about these pentagrams all over their property. A couple of days later,
Ain't that how it goes though? Oh, we don't want them to worry. Oh, we don't want them to worry. And that in actuality, everyone's still fucking worried. But no one's saying shit.
Angela was going to be home alone for a few
Fuck.
hours, and Jeanette had given Angela some chores, which included cleaning out the refrigerator. And so Angela's in the kitchen, and she's got the fridge open, and she's taking things out and cleaning off each of the different
Itchy.
drawers, and she can't help but feel like someone is
I'm sorry. This story is making me very, very itchy. Oh, my face and legs. My face and legs are so itchy right now. Give me just a second. I don't know, like my nerves are on high, man. Now my back's itchy. Oh shit. I'm itchy everywhere. I got the chills. Mm,
standing behind her. She kept turning around, and no one was standing in the kitchen, but she just could not shake this feeling that someone was behind her.
Somebody's watching me. Hungry eyes. Hungry like the wolf. There's so many songs I can sing. There's so many songs I can sing right now. I think somebody's watching me.
And so she's looking at the fridge at one point, and she's about to just give up on cleaning the fridge and explain to her mom that she would just do it later, when all of a sudden she hears behind her this loud, like, explosion. She hears pots and pans and knives and forks clattering all over the ground, and she instantly turns around and
Hot water tank explode. It can happen. It can happen. My grandmother's house, it used to be an old rail station way back in the day. And they eventually, that the train company or train tracks that went through there just didn't go through there anymore. And it got turned into a house. The first people who owned that house had some kids in the, I guess you'd call it like, it was the back porch whenever my grandmother owned it, but it used to be the laundry room. It's where the hot water tank was. And like the hot water tank exploded, and the kids that was back there playing, because it was cool out and it was relatively warm because the fire to the hot water tank, kept it a little bit warmer back there. And I guess they was back there playing and it exploded, and it was awful. Blood, guts everywhere. Like to this day, if you'd go in there and paint, the paint that doesn't do right. Like everywhere there was like, I guess maybe blood. I don't know. It bubbles, and it doesn't stick like at all in any of those spots where then it's just like blotches. Uh, I later on remodeled the laundry room. For those of hold on, I later on remodeled that laundry room because it got some really serious water damage. It had the pipe in the wall that took the gases and stuff up through the ceiling and out, that all that good shit. I guess it was leaking really bad around that, and no one knew about it, and it fucked the walls altogether. So I end up going in, ripping out all the walls, replacing a bunch of studs, putting in a new floor, new part of the ceiling, like completely, basically remodeled it 100%. Went in and painted it after putting up all new walls. I even took out like the hot water tank, put in a new hot water tank, replaced all the wall, the flooring, everything around under before it was all completely remodeled. before I get the hot water tank in and everything else, I get down the plastic, I start painting, and it still did the same fucking thing. I know we went on a little bit of a story. I'm sorry. It happens. It happens. It happens. But it literally did the same thing. Like everywhere I painted where it bubbled before, it still bubbled. New drywall, everything. There was new mud, new drywall, new tape. Everything was new. And it still bubbled up like that. To this day, it still gives me the creeps. Oh,
Every cabinet, every drawer has come flying open and all of their contents have come smashing onto the floor. She sprints up to her bedroom screaming and hides in the corner. Shortly thereafter,
fuck yeah.
Jeanette comes home. She
Bro, I would have ran up to my bedroom, threw my bed in front of the fucking door, hid in the closet underneath all my stuffed animals. Nah, fuck that.
goes inside and she sees the kitchen is an absolute mess. It looks like someone had broken in, and she starts screaming for Angela, thinking the worst. Someone's broken in. What happened to my daughter? She's running upstairs screaming for Angela. She finds Angela curled up in the corner of her bedroom. What's going on? What happened in the kitchen? And Angela just could not put an answer together. She was so shocked by what happened. So Jeanette tells her to stay here. She runs around the house, making sure that no one's there. She gets her laptop, goes back to Angela, opens it up, and she checks the footage. No one's in their house. No one's been near their house. All the while, Angela's just sobbing hysterically. And finally, after Jeanette is convinced that there has not been a home invasion, she turns to Angela and she's like, what is going on? Why does the kitchen look like this? And Angela tried to explain what happened, but it just didn't make any sense. And so Jeanette was getting frustrated with Angela and saying, did you do that down in the kitchen? But when Angela didn't change her story and just looked terrified, Jeanette started to see that Angela wasn't lying. This incident really rattled Angela, and Jeanette would comment in different interviews that it was at this point that Angela began to withdraw quite a bit. She was really upset about what had happened in the kitchen, but there wasn't really a good way to handle it, and so Jeanette didn't know what to say to her daughter. Angela didn't know how to talk about it, and so it was just this awful cloud in their life that they had.
It was a big ass elephant in the room that everyone could smell but could do nothing about.
This really intense thing happened, but there's just no explanation for it. A couple of days after the kitchen incident, and the crew that had been clearing out the basement got to the point where they were ready to actually start tearing down drywall. And so as they start demoing the walls, they find hidden in the walls a journal. And it's this very old looking journal with some lace wrapped around it. And one of the firemen gives it to Jeanette and just says, hey, I thought you might want to look at this. I don't know what to make of it, but it was in your wall. Jeanette opened it up and she began flipping through it, and she saw a date that was 1927. And she knew that was actually the date that this house was actually built. It seemed like this was a journal written by someone named Christina, who seemed fairly young. And as she's flipping through this journal, it really starts to take a dark turn when she sees diagrams of these ritualistic sacrifices of animals and of people that apparently were taking place in this house, because the diagram clearly indicated that it was happening in the basement. And even weirder is there was this room that they didn't know what it was for in the basement that was underneath the stairs, that it wasn't really a closet. It was all cement on all four sides. It was like someone had put a pocket of cement underneath the stairs. And they always wondered what it was. And some of the diagrams indicated that some of the sacrificing was going on underneath the stairs in that room. Jeanette decides to keep the journal from her kids. She does not want them to know that this was found in the walls. A couple of days later, Angela is in her bedroom listening to music on her headphones.
How did that even get there? Like, okay, whenever I used to help my family build houses way back when, like, we always left like a 50-cent piece in the wall. I don't know why. That was just something that we did. So maybe it was just, they left something personal in the manner of that. But the creepy thing is, why that book?
And at some point, she thinks she hears someone call her name. She takes her headphones out. She goes to the door, opens up, looks.
And is this a little kid's journal? Like, so this is a family of Satan worshipers? Maybe they did something, didn't get a chance to close it, and something bad happened to them, and now it's just open and been going crazy for however long.
Down and says, hey, Mom, did you call me? And her mom's like, no. She looks down the hall and she can hear that her sister is showering in the bathroom at the end of the hall, so it wasn't her. And so, Angela, she has a healthy fear of this house because of really the kitchen incident more than anything else.
It's not healthy fear, bro. She's scared shitless of this house. I mean, don't sugarcoat it. Don't look at me like that, MrBallen. That's mean. How do you like it? Hmm?
But she's thinking, okay, I must have heard something, not a big deal. So she goes back into her room and she sits down in her bed. But before putting her headphones back in, she hears someone say, "Get Deneen." And it's coming from in the walls. Immediately, she's terrified. Down the hall, she hears Deneen, who's in the shower, screaming bloody murder. Angela starts running to the bathroom to see what's going on with Deneen, right as Jeanette is flying up the stairs to go see what's going on with Deneen. They open up the door, and Deneen is huddled on the ground, screaming about some person in the bathroom with her. And she kept turning around, and no one was there. Jeanette would say when she saw her daughter, she looked so scared she thought she was having a seizure. And Jeanette immediately grabs a towel, scoops up her daughter. She grabs Angela and they leave the bathroom. They go running into Jeanette's room and they get into Jeanette's bed and they're all huddled there and Jeanette's trying to ask Deneen what she saw. And so Deneen finally says that she was in the shower and she heard someone saying her name and it sounded like a male voice. And she's just looking through the frosted glass and all of a sudden she sees a big hand land on the outside of the shower door. Jeanette felt so helpless. She had lost her husband, her kids have lost their father, and there's all these strange things happening in the house.
Look, the shit, it craves despair, bro. And these three ladies just moved in after losing their father, their husband, a massive amount of love right there, just gone in a very traumatic way. They're leaving everything behind, which is still traumatizing, even though it's good for them at this moment. Like, there is so much just to feed off of. Like, if you was a demon, you couldn't have asked for a more perfect family to move in there. It can feed forever on just their sadness. Damn, bro. Ooh, what if it's like the spirit of the father trying to scare them out of there because he thinks something bad's going to happen because of all the devil worshiping? Maybe he's like, no, they're not going to listen. They're just trying to escape, the reality of everything. I've got to scare them out of here. Maybe it's something like that. Male's voice. He knows their names. Maybe. I'm just trying to look at the bright side here, people. Shit.
And Jeanette just felt like she couldn't protect them. It was around this time that Jeanette really felt like she
Squirt gun full of holy water. It works.
should leave the house. But financially, they were really invested into this house, so it would have been very difficult to leave just financially. And then also, the amount of time and energy all the firefighters, all of Kurt's friends had put into renovating the house and gutting it and fixing it up. It was so much time and energy that she felt like she would be letting them down if she left. And she couldn't possibly tell them that the reason that she was leaving is because the house is haunted. And so she just felt trapped. A couple of days go by and everybody is just on edge in the house. Angela, Deneen, Jeanette, they don't like being there. And Angela just felt really cooped up when she was home and she was just scared of being in the house. And so one night she decides to go outside and just swing on their swing, which was on their front property. Jeanette is inside the house doing dishes where there's a window that looks out the front of the house where you can see this swing set. When she finishes doing the dishes, she takes her eye off of Angela for a moment and she walks into the other room to sit down on the couch. She grabs her laptop, she opens it up and figures she can keep an eye on Angela using the security camera that was pointing in that direction.
Oh, yeah.
So she opens up the program and she pulls up all the camera feeds and she's shocked when on the camera feed with Angela, she sees the same cloaked figure she had seen the first time she'd been looking at the live feeds, standing right behind Angela. And immediately she's up and sprinting outside, screaming for Angela. As soon as she gets outside, she hears Angela screaming for her mother before she's even seen her mother. And when she turns the corner, she sees Angela screaming in pain on the ground in front of the swing, and there's no cloaked figure anywhere. She runs over and she can see that Angela's ankle has been badly broken or dislocated, And so she scoops her up and she said, what happened? And Angela said that somebody pushed me. Someone pushed me off the swing. And they go to the hospital, and sure enough, she had dislocated and broken her ankle. When they got home that night, Jeanette opened up the laptop and reviewed the footage from outside. And she saw this figure walk out of the woods, and the swing was right up against the woods. And it goes right behind Angela and appears to push Angela and then goes back into the woods. Jeanette called the police. She showed them the footage, and they feel really bad, and they can clearly see what happened.
Nothing they can do, though.
But there's no way to identify the figure that came out of the tree line. They just told them to be careful, don't go in your woods, and if you see this figure again in any of your camera feeds, call us right away and we'll come right over and we'll do what we can. So at this point, Jeanette is terrified. She can't protect her kids, and she doesn't leave them really at any point. She's 24/7 in the same room with her kids. They're sleeping in the same room, and the only time she would leave them is during the day for very brief stints. And on one day, a couple of days after the swing incident, Jeanette needed to go to the pharmacy, and so Angela's going to be alone for about an hour and a half. And so her mom leaves, and Angela is in her bedroom, and she's sitting on her bed and she's listening to music. At some point, she thinks she hears banging coming from somewhere in her room. Now, at this point, Angela's been pretty shaken up after living here. She had the incident in the kitchen where everything flew out of the drawers and cupboards. She's been hearing tapping and banging sounds. She has her sister's story about the hand on the glass in the shower. She just got pushed off a swing by some cloaked figure. I mean, she's scared of this.
It sounds like she's getting it a little bit more than the rest of them, too. I mean, poor thing. I feel, damn.
Place. And so every sound is going to terrify her.
Fuck yeah.
And when she started hearing that tapping sound, she took out her headphones. She looks over at her closet and she can see that the doors are rattling. She is so immediately scared that she gets off of the bed and goes underneath and tucks up against the side of the wall. She could actually see the bottom of the closet, and she can see it still rattling, and she's tucked up against the wall. And as she's looking, the doors slowly slide open, and she sees a figure walk out of her closet that must have been standing there the whole time that she'd been laying on her bed. She said this horrible smell filled the room, and she said that it looked like it had human feet, bare feet, but it was a totally dark figure. It was hard to really pick out if it looked human or not, but it began walking around her room, and she believed it was looking for her. And she heard its footsteps as it walked all over her room. And at some point, it walks into the hall out of her bedroom. And she's just laying there under her bed, hoping that it doesn't come back. And then when she thinks it's walked all the way downstairs, it goes quiet. And then she hears it running up the stairs, running into her bedroom, runs right in front of the bed. Its feet are aimed right at her. It climbs onto her bed. She can hear the springs condensing right above her. And she's looking out wide-eyed, holding her mouth, and all of a sudden its head appears looking down directly at her, and it's this dark face, sunken eyes. It looks like its skin is rotting off of its head, and it's just staring at her upside down, looking directly at her. At this point, she screams, and the figure goes back up onto the bed, and now it's sitting right above her. She's screaming uncontrollably, and then she hears it get off the bed, but she doesn't know where it went in the room. And so for the next 45 minutes, she lays there expecting this thing to come back. It knows where she is. It knows she's under the bed. And she can hear it occasionally running around the house. She can just smell this horrible smell, and at some point she hears her mom's car outside, and she starts screaming for her mother. Her mother must have heard her because she comes bombing into the house. She runs up the stairs. She's screaming for Angela. Angela's screaming for her mom. And then she finally finds Angela under the bed. She pulls her out. She holds her, and she's trying to figure out what's going on. And Angela's saying that he's in the house. He's in the house. He's in the house. I don't know what it is. He came out of my closet. Jeanette runs all through the house looking for anything or anyone in the house. There's nothing. It's gone. At this point, Jeanette is at her wit's end. She doesn't know what to do. So she takes Angela, she gets in the car, they drive to where Deneen is. Deneen was with a friend at the time. They get Deneen, so the three of them are together now, and they drive to Jeanette's parents' house. And while they're there, Jeanette calls a paranormal investigator, and she says, I need your help. I need help to get rid of what's going on in my house. And so she gets in touch with this woman named Liz, who offers to do a cleansing of the house. And after the cleansing was done, Jeanette would say that it appeared that everything stopped in the house. And somewhat unbelievably, Jeanette and Angela and Deneen decided to stay in the house where this demon was. that they felt confident that the cleansing had gotten rid of it, and to this day, they still live there. If it was me, I would have been out of that house and never gone back. So I'd love to get your reaction to.
If it was me, I would be getting in touch with my old man, my now deceased old man's friends who are firefighters, and be like, bro, arson the fuck out of this shit. You know how to make it look like it ain't what it ain't when it is what it was, because now it's just fucking with me, and it's got to go. Match in the gas tank. Boom boom. Fuck that. No. Damn. That would be horrifying. Horrifying to go through as a family, as a child. Just losing your father, your husband, all that pain, all that trauma, and whatever it is going, that's just fueling that shit, bro. Damn. I really enjoyed Dave's story though. If you all enjoyed Dave's story as much as I did, please go down there and leave a thumbs up. It really helps the channel grow. While you're down there, if you want, go on over, slap that subscribe button, become part of the Built for 1000 Nation. We do some pretty crazy shit here, bro. And if you want to know when that crazy shit happens, ding that bell. It might work for you. It might not. But if it do, hop on in on one of my premieres, go over in the live chat and be like, hey, Bill, you dinged me, baby. You dinged me good. I'm going to leave you a like for that. And then dip. That's all you got to do. I don't know why you all sounded like that. I know a lot of you don't, but in my head you do. So, yeah. As always, be good to one another. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye. I don't trust none of that shit. Nope. I ain't living there. I don't give a fuck how many people's blessed. I don't care. You know, bless you, bless this, bless that. I'm out. Fuck that shit, bro.